Known Elves player. He's also known to play Tezzeret from time to time. I know he was playing that back earlier this summer, but he has switched back to Elves here at 7-1 in the final round of the Legacy Open. Joe Lossett, of course, an experienced and accomplished Miracles player. He also played that in the Invitational as well, and he is sitting at 6-1-1. So looks like he is really having a tough time deciding whether or not to keep that opener. Chris looks a little more satisfied with his, but it looks like we're keeping and we're off, leading with a Tundra. Joe on turn 1 on the play. Passes to Chris, who plays a Misty Rainforest and is going to go fetching up a land. Looks like Chris may have only had that one land. It's possible I'm incorrect because it was just a flash of his hand I saw there. He's going to find, looks like just a basic forest with some words on it that must have been a proxy at some point.
Looks like a nice forest to be a proxy.
Yeah, it actually does.
Okay, so he's going to Green Sun for a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, and Spell Pierce will take care of that for Joe. Make sure that the Green Sun Zenith does not resolve there. Joe draws for the turn. Off the top, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Looks like he's got a Mystic Gate for his turn 2 play, and he's just going to pass.
Seems like Joe might be a little land light, actually.
Yeah, it looks like a Caracas maybe in there next to the Force of Will, but that's it. Land of War Elves from Chris. Gaia's Cradle to follow it up. So he's got access to 1 here off of the Cradle. He's going to go ahead and use that to cast a Nettle Sentinel.
So it looks like Chris has a natural order in his hand.
Yes.
Interestingly, he has no Progenitus, so if Joe's able to get set up and get a Terminus on top of his deck, it sort of completely negates that avenue to victory, which actually, when I was testing a lot against this deck, because Reed was planning to play it for the Invitational, and that's pretty often how they win the game. So
natural order into Progenitus?
Natural order into
Craterhoof, yeah.
Unless they have Progenitus, which a lot of them have in the sideboard.
So Glimpse of Nature looks like the play from Chris, and immediately met with a Force of Will from Joe. Does not want Chris to get rolling there. But yeah, it looks like Caracas was that 3rd land from Joe. He played it and passed the turn. But yeah, Craterhoof Behemoth, Regal Force, those are the big guys in the deck. But the Behemoth is usually the one that you see ending the game.
Even Regal Force has the same problem. If effect on the stack, Terminus, draw 0.
Yeah. And I believe Joe's probably got 4 Terminus in the 75. 3 main?
3 main, 1 in the
sideboard.
sideboard.
On the board, yeah. Terminus, such a great card in Legacy where you can set things up with Sensei's Divining Top and Brainstorm.
Jace.
Jace, yeah. Plenty of ways to make that your top card and miracle it. So, end of turn, Vendilion Click from Joe Lossett.
I think it's. I think it might be in the attack. I think Chris attacked with the Nettle Sentinel.
Okay.
And Joe's looking to trade and reduce the mana from the Cradle.
You're absolutely right. It is a mid-combat Vendilion Click, and Joe actually decides to dump his own Entreat the Angels in order to draw a card there and trade with the Nettle Sentinel. Deathrite Shaman has joined the force on Chris's side in the meantime.
Looks like Green Sun Zenith for 1.
Yeah. Looks that way. He's got a couple of natural orders in hand. And it's a Curian Ranger.
It's interesting. Chris also could have chosen to get the Wirewood Symbiote just as a little bit of insurance against one of those sweeper effects.
Yeah. Wirewood Symbiote, a great way to kind of protect your creatures and also helps that engine get going. So Chris has 2 copies of Natural Order in his hand, but that's it. He's got a couple of elves on the table and a Gaia's Cradle, and all right, so he's going to untap his guys and then pass back to Joe. Joe untaps his 3 lands. Now, did he find a 4th land? He didn't. He has a Supreme Verdict in hand. does not appear to have a way to cast it. So he passes back, no land drop. And we've got a Finned Horn Elves. Gaia's Cradle is going to go ahead and cast that natural order. Chris immediately sacrifices the Finned Horn Elves. And now Joe is in the tank. He says okay.
So Joe has the Swords to Plowshares. So I think he will be able to stay alive through a Craterhoof attack here.
Craterhoof Behemoth is the choice for natural order. As you can see, sacrifice a green creature and you get to search for a different green creature, put it into play. Well, not a different. You could technically put the same one into play if you wanted. And then you shuffle your library, which is what Chris is doing here. Swords to Plowshares, as you mentioned, Joe immediately going to take out that Craterhoof Behemoth.
So presumably with the trigger on the stacks, all the creatures are going to get +3/+3 instead of +4/+4.
You're going to try to mitigate the life loss there, and Chris still going to be able to crash in for quite a bit here.
Looks like 10, 12, 12.
Yeah, I think 12.
And Joe needs to draw land here pretty badly.
Yeah, Joe just goes from 19 to 7. And does he find a land? He finds a Swords to Plowshares. It's not what he was looking for. It's still a defensive spell. Yeah, he really needs a land. He's got a Jace and he's got a Supreme Verdict. And that Swords to Plowshares he just drew for the turn. So no way to draw cards, no way to cast the four drops.
So Chris has another natural order in his hand, but he only has one Craterhoof Behemoth in his deck.
And Swords to Plowshares on the Deathrite Shaman is the play from Joe. So does he go for a Regal Force here with that?
Well, the problem is, unless he draws an elf, like if he were to draw land, okay, well now,
Heritage Druid, yeah.
Otherwise, you could get the Regal Force just as a 5/5, but it's only going to be 2 cards.
Right.
But with the third elf, draw 3, it probably becomes worth it.
Heritage Druid is the first play, and it looks like we're going to do some mana shenanigans here. Untap his elf, return his forest to his hand, replay the forest, tap the Gaia's Cradle for 3, cast that natural order, and Regal Force to draw 3. So he gets to draw 3, and that'll restock him. He's got a 5/5. There you see Regal Force. Not a real standout back in Standard when it was initially printed, but in this Elves deck it really can really help things keep moving and keep that engine going, because the Elves deck really just wants to cast a ton of Elves.
Could be worse here for Joe, though. I mean, he's still, if he can hit a Terminus or a land for the Supreme Verdict, he's in reasonable shape. Oh, another Caracas.
Wow. Not the land he was looking for.
Well, he's going to have to use it as a Caracas pedal.
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to go ahead and tap the Caracas for mana, play the second one, tap the other 3, Supreme Verdict, and he clears Chris's side of the board, stabilizing at 5 life. But Chris was able to restock his hand there, so Joe may not be out of the woods just yet. Chris is going to play a fetch land here. He's going to play Kyrian Ranger. He's going to play Heritage Druid and pass the turn. So Joe still looking for a way to get into this game. He has now found a 4th land that he can keep in play.
So that's pretty good. He's probably going to play Jason Brainstorm, and then that gives Chris the option of using the fetch land to search for a Dryad Arbor, which can be 3 power to kill the Jace.
Right.
But that's not necessarily what he'll choose to do with Joe at 4.
Right, yeah, it's one of those decisions where he's going to have to choose, do I knock my opponent to 1 here, or do I take out his Planeswalker? No, if not only a Planeswalker, but the Planeswalker, Jace the Mind Sculptor. And
now Joe just wants a Terminus or maybe an Entreat.
Yeah, he just needs something to keep these elves from killing him, so he is going to Brainstorm.
That's a Terminus, I think. The middle one.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it looks like Flooded Strand Terminus and Sensei's Divining Top. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, those are some cards he would like to have. So he looks like he's going to leave the Terminus on top. All of those cards will cost just 1 mana. Well, both of those cards will cost just 1 mana when he casts them. And there you see the Verdant Catacombs immediately cracked at the end of Joe's turn, and Dryad Arbor the likely pick here, as you suggested. Yes, Dryad Arbor is the call. And he's got the option to take out Jace or knock Joe to 1 from 4, unless he can maybe find another way to get just 1 more power onto the table. Chris's hand, I believe, is just Dryad Arbor. Draw for the turn is a Priest of Titania. So he's going to attack here. Looks like he's kind of thinking.
The tricky thing is for Chris here, if he attacks Jace for 3, he's going to really want to put 1 more power in play to make his board lethal. And that's going to really
that's going to
make things a lot harder for him when he miracles his Terminus.
Right. So there you see Jace is the target of the attack, and he goes down. Priest of Titania to follow up, and Terminus will terminate. Well, I guess that's the way to put it. Terminus will resolve and deal with Chris's entire side of the board. Sensei's Divining Top, the follow-up to the Terminus. And Joe passes the turn. So Joe, at 4 life, has potentially stabilized here.
He needs just a little bit of help, but he's very close.
So
Flooded Strand, Brainstorm, and Polluted Delta.
Yeah. So Joe can draw the fetch land. I mean, he's got ways to freshen up the top of his library with those fetch lands. He has to decide exactly how he wants to do this. What card does he want to draw here? He can shuffle away the top, but is that something he wants to do at this point? He's really low on options and needs a way to kind of manipulate the top of his library.
Likely he'll just draw a fetch land, look and see in case the 3rd card is something special, and then fetch to find 3 fresh cards.
And the 3rd card is Swords to Plowshares. He's going to put the Brainstorm on the top. Oh, now he's putting the Swords on the top. Plays that Polluted Delta and passes the turn. Chris finds Misty Rainforest. He's going to... Looks like we might see an Elvish Visionary. So Chris trying to just draw some more cards, get some more gas. He's got 1 power on the board. Visionary resolving will put 2 power on the board. That's 2-turn clock. He's only going to be able to attack with the Arbor here, knocking Joe to 3. But a Misty Rainforest may be able to find another Arbor here.
He does have 2 in his deck, so, but given that he's searching main phase, it's almost certainly not going to be an Arbor.
Looks like he went with a Bayou into a Deathrite Shaman. And the Arbor's going to knock Joe to 3. And there is 3 power on Chris's side of the board, so Joe's going to need to start dealing with these threats from Chris. Joe's top card, I believe, is still the Swords to Plowshares. I think that's what he ended up going with.
Joe likely was planning to Swords the Dryad Arbor when it attacked, but because Chris played the Deathrite Shaman pre-combat and presented a bigger threat, Joe decided to wait and see if he could find a sweeper to deal with the whole board, or in the case that he couldn't, probably use the Swords to Plowshares directly on the Deathrite Shaman, because that'll give him an extra turn, unless he decides to fetch and just dig for a Terminus.
He's going to go ahead and look at the top 3 cards of his library using Sensei's Divining Top here at the end of Chris's turn, still seeing that Swords to Plowshares, Brainstorm, and a Flooded Strand, I believe, is that 3rd land there, or that 3rd card.
The other thing Joe can do is if he's able to, he could draw the Swords to Plowshares, remove the Deathrite Shaman, and then try to find and entreat the Angels to block the 2 attackers.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Entreat won't deal with the Deathrite Shaman, obviously, because it's more potent using the black activated ability at this point.
Yeah, the Grim Lavamancer portion of its abilities. So Joe in the tank here, trying to find a way out. It's kind of a puzzle for him. He really you know, he wants the Swords to Plowshares, but he really kind of wants more than the Swords to Plowshares. I think he also wants that Brainstorm.
Her tokens are buy one, get one free. She also has
and I think he also is,
20% off.
he wants both of those cards, but doesn't want to shuffle away the top. So I think Swords to Plowshares is still the top card. All right, so this is all at the end of Chris's turn. If you're just joining us, I'm Joey Pasco in the booth with Huey Jensen, Invitational finalist here in Indianapolis at the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. We are covering the final round of Legacy here for the Legacy Open. And this will be this is the final round of the Swiss, and we will be heading into the quarterfinals shortly after this round ends. Joe Lossett here taking some time. He's on the ropes, but he's found a way to kind of stay in the game here. But Chris has lethal damage currently on the board in the form of Dryad Arbor, Elvish Visionary, and Deathrite Shaman.
So I think Joe drew the Swords to Plowshares, but he's also fetched to go to 2, so he's kind of putting all his hopes on the fact that he's going to be able to find a terminus here, I think.
All right, what does he got? He's going to activate, or he's going to, activate top with the Mystic Gate. He finds Jace, looked like a Force of Will, and
a counterbalance.
Not what he's looking for. He's going to think about it. He's got access to 4 mana. He's got, I guess, he could maybe use the Jace. I mean, Jace bounce doesn't seem like the best way out of the situation, but it was a Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
So it was Flusterstorm. Was it Flusterstorm counterbalance Jace? Is that what it was?
That's what it was. But unfortunately for him, he's at 2, so even Jace bounce doesn't save him.
Yeah, he's not able to find a way out of it, and he's going to scoop him up to Chris Andersen here in game 1 of our round 9 action here.
I think Joe had one line that he could have taken. No. He had to use the top to get to the Jace. I was going to say he could play Jace and Brainstorm, play a fetch land, sack the fetch, and then just try to hit counterbalance off the top, but that wouldn't work. He had to use the top to get the Jace.
So as these players go to their sideboards, we will also take a look at what they've got. So for Joe Lossett, what has he got over there, and what is
Well, he's got the 4th Terminus, which he'll certainly bring in, 1 Engineered Explosives, and then maybe a third, another Entreat the Angels, which would be his 3rd, I believe. Yeah, a 3rd Entreat the Angels.
Any value to a Pithing Needle on one of these elf abilities?
Probably minimal.
Yeah.
Most of the elves have mana abilities. Quarian Ranger and Wirewood Symbiote don't, of course. I don't. It might be worth it. You know, it could be better than Rest in Peace is certainly coming out. Vidalian Click is not the best card in this matchup.
Right.
It's a little slow. Trades with 1/1s.
Yeah.
Misdirection is useless. It doesn't do anything. Although Chris probably has a discard package. Most of the elf decks do. So.
And he does. Yeah. It looks like he's got 3 copies of Thoughtseize, 3 Cabal Therapy. That looks like his discard package. He's got 2 copies of Abrupt Decay, which are certainly coming in here against a player who is playing counterbalance top. He's not going to get the top, but he's going to get the going to be able to get the counterbalance, and that's the important part. He does have Progenitus there in the board as a natural order target. That's the the classic natural order target. Well, I'd say classic, but yeah, a couple of years ago it was classic anyway.
It's good, but given that Chris knows Joe's going to have 4 Terminus and at least 1 Supreme Verdict, he might, it doesn't have haste.
Right.
It's protection from Swords to Plowshares and Caracas only. It's probably not worth it, although maybe he wants to try to use it as a follow-up to those sweepers.
The other card here, Gaddock Teague, usually pretty decent against some of these control decks, but
Gaddock great.
It stops Terminus, right?
Stops Terminus, Supreme Verdict, Entreat, Force of Will.
So
It's pretty much has to be has to be Swords to Plowshared, and I imagine it could pose a big problem for Joe if Chris is able to get a Wirewood Symbiote in play. I guess it only works with elves, so that wouldn't work, but certainly Gaddock Teeg anyway.
Yeah.
Joe has, you know, 3 Swords to Plowshares in a 75, and Gaddock Teeg has to be plowed or really shuts down Joe's deck. Jace, it stops Jace too.
Yeah, just 1 in the board, but Chris has 4 copies of Green Sun Zenith that will be able to grab that Gaddock Teeg, and effectively 5 copies of Gaddock Teeg if that's the number 1 card that he wants to get. So Chris up a game here in round 9 versus Joe Lossett. And so is this very similar to the deck that Reed was playing? I did see he was playing elves.
Yeah, I don't actually know the exact numbers in Reed's deck, but certainly similar. I don't think Reed had a Regal Force. I think he did have 2 Craterhoof Behemoth.
Okay.
Other than that, it looks, like I said, I don't know the exact numbers, but it looks pretty close.
And is Reed's in the Legacy Open? I know we covered him last round, but I happened to miss it. Is he still playing elves?
No, in this one he's playing
he's playing Bant.
A Bant deck.
That's right. So decided to switch things up. And you guys tested together a bit for the Invitational?
Yeah, we test together for pretty much everything.
Yeah. Sounds like we've got information from Reed's match. He is down a game. I believe he's in the other feature match. So
He'll come back.
yeah, that's what he does. I mean, it's Reed Duke.
Yeah.
Who's his opponent? That's that's the scary thing. Okay, his opponent, Christopher Walton. So Joe looks like he is going to take a mulligan here. Chris keeping on his 7. Joe looking for, well, last game he stumbled on mana after turn 3. I think his opener may have been okay, but he didn't hit that 4th land drop and didn't have enough library manipulation to really dig for land.
My guess is he kept it on the strength of Supreme Verdict. He probably knew the matchup. Supreme Verdict is so powerful in this matchup. So he probably figured, he had 3 land and a Verdict. He figures to draw 1 by the time he needs to cast it, especially with, 4 Brainstorm and 4 Tops.
Yeah, even though the 4th land ended up being Caracas, he was able to make use of that mana, so that was key in getting him to kind of stay in the game, at least. And now he's going to look at his, looks like 6, and it looks like, what is that, Force of Will and Counterbalance? Some number of...
I think 2 Force of Will, a Counterbalance, and I don't know what the last card is, maybe a Brainstorm or something. Looks like 4 blue cards.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. He's going to keep that. He plays Flooded Strand and passes. Bayou is the play from Chris into a Deathrite Shaman. Joe's going to crack his Flooded Strand there.
Probably going to try to put a 1 on top for Chris's turn if he can. If he's fetching, he's going to Brainstorm at the end of turn, which means he's going to try to leave a 1 Casting House card on top of his deck and play Counterbalance.
That seems like a solid plan.
The question is if he'd be able to find a 1 Casting House
right.
card.
It needs to be there.
Yeah.
And he's using his Brainstorm. So that was the only 1 cost card available in his hand. So, this is Chris's. Oh, he's thinking about cutting the deck. Just changed his mind. All right, so Brainstorm. Looks like he found at least a Jace. I didn't get a great look.
Vidillion Click, Jace, and a land, yeah.
So no 1 cost card. Not what he was looking for. Joe Lossett not having very good luck here in this particular match. Not out of it or anything.
Oh, no.
We're way early in this game, but not finding what he wants in a deck that plays quite a few 1-drops. He's got Brainstorms. He's got Spell Pierces. He may have boarded out some number of these, but he's got Divining Tops. He's got Swords to Plowshares. So a lot of different 1-drops that he could have found and was unable to find any of them.
So Joe is probably going to figure out what cards he doesn't want and use this fetch land before following up with Counterbalance. Again, he just really wants to find a Terminus in his deck.
All right, so Misty Rainforest is the play. He's going to go ahead and crack that. Finds a Tundra. Not really in danger of being wastelanded out of this one. Elves typically not playing wastelands.
So now because Joe is unable to find the 1, he'll use the fetch land, and he has another shot to natural the 1. Or the 2, or whatever it happens to be that Chris leads up with, if it's a Visionary or a Deathrite Shaman or... Let's see.
All right, so counterbalance on the table now. Chris trying to decide what exactly he wants to cast here. He's got a Heritage Druid there. Not getting a great look. He's got another Deathrite Shaman. Looks like he's going to go with the Heritage Druid. I think I see an Elvish Visionary back there. Of course, that costs 2. He's not casting that here. Heritage Druid is the play. Off the top is a Vendilion Click. Does not counter the Druid. And so the Druid appears to have resolved. And a Gaia's Cradle is going to come down. Tap immediately for 2. Now we've got the Elvish Visionary. Deathrite Shaman is going to remove the fetch land there, and he's going to cast a second copy of Deathrite Shaman. So using the mana ability of the first Shaman to make a second. Passes back to Joe. Joe is places third land, facing down 4 creatures on the other side of the board. Reed Duke has indeed come back to take game 2 in our other match, so he's evened things up over there. Let's see if Joe Lossett is able to even things up over here. It's not looking great for him. Chris is kind of doing anything he wants.
Tribe of 1 power creatures.
Yeah. So 3 guys attacking here.
I think that likely Joe is going to click himself again, get rid of one of these Force of Wills, and trade with the Heritage Druid, or maybe the Quirion Ranger, the Elvish Visionary. Excuse me.
Oh, he's going to target Chris here.
Chris's hand actually extremely weak here. A Cradle, which he already has in play, 2 more land, and a Heritage Druid. My guess is Joe is going to take nothing. And probably trade with the Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, he trades with the Deathrite Shaman. So he's going to take 2 there. Gets a look at what's happening over there, but he's got to worry about Chris's board at this point. So Deathrite Shaman's going to go ahead and remove the Brainstorm.
Yeah, Joe's going to have to find a Supreme Verdict or a Terminus at some point.
Draws for the turn. Thought it may have been a land, but I couldn't swear to it. No, it's a Swords to Plowshares. So it's a card that'll do something at least. Swords to Plowshares, it's odd. You want it so much against something like Gaddock Teeg, but it feels so bad against so many of these other cards. And a fetch land finds Dryad Arbor there at the end of Joe's turn. This is something I think, Dryad Arbor being such a huge addition to the Elves deck, being able to be fetched up like that, and of course the natural order interaction there, being able to tutor up a green creature to sacrifice to the natural order. Such a great synergies in this deck. Top of the library for Chris is Verdant Catacombs. And he's just going to swing in with everybody. And Vendilion Click number 2 from Joe Lossett. This time, who's he targeting? Himself. I believe he targeted himself.
I think he's thinking. He's getting anxious here. He's like, well, I'm not so far behind I can't come back. I get to trade for the Deathrite Shaman, but I need to find one of these cards that's going to impact the board.
So he gets rid of a Force of Will, trades away his Vendilion Click for the other Deathrite Shaman. So he's traded 2 clicks for 2 Shamans. He's got to look at Chris's hand, and he was able to get rid of a Force of Will and draw a mystery card right now. I think he may have drawn a land, but Caracas being the top card of his library there is unsuccessful in countering that second copy of Heritage Druid. But Joe does have land number 4 now. Unlike the first game, he doesn't have access to Supreme Verdict in hand.
So fetching Dryad Arbor sneaks under the counterbalance.
Yeah. Able to just add more power to the board without even casting a spell.
So Joe's getting he's getting whittled down here by this army of 1-power elves.
Yeah, and if you're new to Legacy, or if you haven't seen the Elves deck before, it's a pretty interesting deck, being that it's made up of all these tiny little, green creatures. At this point, you got to be thinking this doesn't even look as good as like a white weenie deck, because these guys don't even pump each other. But the power in the deck comes with cards like Glimpse of Nature that lets you draw a ton of cards, and Natural Order, which Chris is playing, that allows him to sacrifice an elf and upgrade it into something huge like a Craterhoof Behemoth or a Regal Force. Right here, he is making use of the new Legend rule, adding a ton of mana with Gaia's Cradle, playing a second copy of Gaia's Cradle and adding mana with it, and now is casting Green Sun Zenith, where X equals, I'm guessing, 10? 8, okay.
He just wants to cast it for enough to get Craterhoof Behemoth, and yep.
Okay, so it is actually X equals 8, so the total converted mana cost is 9.
And Joe does not have a 9 casting cost card on top of his library.
Yeah, unfortunately, he could not. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know how that could be. So Green Sun Zenith here is going to resolve, and there's the Craterhoof Behemoth. So this is what Chris has been building up to, and Joe Lossett extends the hand. He can't deal with all those elves, and especially getting that pump from the Craterhoof Behemoth, and there you have it. Goes from just a bunch of little guys, innocuous-seeming elves, and immediately Chris Andersen is able to win out of nowhere.